Hello, my name is Dr. Patrick Porter, and I'm going to be helping you to understand the science of light and sound. Now, when it comes to business, we all need a partner. So I put a picture of my partner here, Dr. Cynthia Porter. Together, we've been involved in this technology since the 80s. I was part of the first team of 6 people that put together light and sound as a therapeutic approach to help people de-stress and start to manage their life. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that journey, but mostly I'm going to teach you about the science. So sit back, relax as we go on this journey of light and sound. Now, as we start, I have a mission, and I hope you want to become a part of that mission. My mission is to prolong and improve the quality of every life through proven neuroscience. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to provide you with a link where you can get both of these books. Because during this presentation, I can only share so much with you. And I'd like you to learn more. And I know you're students, so you're on a tight budget. So go to the link at the end of this presentation and download these 2 books and learn a little bit more about the science and how practitioners, healthcare practitioners, just like you, are using this to help their population. Also, I believe that service to humanity is service to divinity. So as you go out there and you start serving the world, not only are you making an income and making an impact in your own life and your own community, but you're serving a greater good. Right now, we have tools and techniques that are going to transform the world. You're learning them at the school you're attending right now. And I'm going to help you to make that next level leap so you can begin to integrate and use all the technology that's available to you in an affordable and practical way. Now, there's a need for brain-based balance. You might not be aware of it right now, but stress is the most pervasive malady of our time. It's been called the silent killer. Over 90% of all illness is related to this stress. This was done by the National Institutes of Health. So stress is a primary cause of all disease. So when the body is stressed, the body doesn't operate right. Stress might not be felt as stress at all. Rather, it goes straight to the body, affecting its weakest points. So as we move through this technology, this is 21st century. We call it super stress. We all live in a fast-paced lifestyle, 24-hour-a-day email, text. There's a pressure to multitask. There's traffic, crowds, noise, overstimulation, financial woes. Look at you as students. You probably are worrying about how you're going to pay your bills, how you're going to take the classes. All of that stress adds up to one thing: all uptime and no downtime. This fight or flight response gives the brain no rest, and there's no recovery for the brain. Most people are going. Here we are, we're Americans. We want it fast, we want it easy, we want it free, we want a limo to come get us to pick up our checks. All of these things happen because of the way that we live our lives right now. We live in a high-paced, fast-paced, never-ending stopping program. Now, all of this puts together what we call super stress. And as Dr. Robert Lee says, today's society has increased chronic stressors to assaulting proportions, and we're left dealing with them as a fallout. So think about it. This is what your future clients are going to have. They're going to have a super stress because it's not slowing down. There's literally hundreds of thousands of emails, text messages, ways that we communicate, and who knows what they're going to come up with next. The reality is that our brain is turned on and tunes out the healing potential of the body. We need to get out of that, what we call sympathetic fight or flight, and get into the parasympathetic, the rest and digest mode. Now, we can do that in many ways. What I'm going to talk about here today is how we do it with light and sound. It's important to understand that all stress is brain stress. That this prolonged brain stress results in something we call sympathetic survival syndrome. More than 2 billion people suffer from this worldwide. That means that there's a whole lot of people out there that need your help, that are going to walk through your doors as a healthcare practitioner, and are going to want help with stress. Now, certainly, there's a lot of ways we can deal with that, and we're going to learn one of those today. Now, why do we need brain training in this age of technology? Just look at what happens to the brain when you're listening to a cell phone. Now, I'm sure those of you watching this have a cell phone in your pocket or in your duffel bag, somewhere that you talk on. When you put it up to your ear, here's what it looks like. The adult over here, the adult, you can see the penetration into the brain. the teenager a little bit more, the 5-year-old all the way. Now, the reason that happens is as we get older, our brain doesn't wire. Our brain literally unwires. The neural pathways aren't there anymore. That's why the adult's penetration isn't as much as the 5-year-old. So as you think about this radiation and how it enters the brain through the ear channel, we're going to use this same theory when I talk about light and how we can get the healing effects of light into the brain. But our brain is being assaulted all the time, whether it be through cell phones, electromagnetic radiation. There's a lot of things happening to us every day when we get up. And if we don't manage those stressors, our brain and body pay the price. Now, what causes stress? First of all, there's thoughts, and I'm going to deal with that because that was my background, dealing with things like being overweight, having a smoking problem, just everyday stress, mind over menopause, all of the things. In fact, we found out 43 different areas that we can help with this technology of light and sound. But it all starts with the thoughts, because your thoughts create the things that happen to you. One bad thing could happen to one person, the same bad thing happen to another, but it doesn't affect them physiologically. So we're going to talk about thoughts. It also is traumas. What kind of trauma has happened? Everyone listening to this, by the time you were 4 to 5 years old, you fell down anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 times. That means that you have brain trauma. It doesn't matter if you played soccer, professional football, or if you just kicked around in the backyard. As a child, you fell down, and how your brain rewired around that injury is how smart you are or how you have difficulties maybe in learning. So we're going to talk about that. Now, also toxins. I'm going to teach you some things today about toxins in the brain that you probably never heard about. But the brain is toxic just by the act of functioning every day. So how do you detox the brain to keep it working at optimum levels in this age of super stress? You're going to learn about that in just a moment. Now, first of all of this stress and healing has to start with the mind. The mind is the organizing principle that is what we call innate intelligence that works within the body. Now, you're learning, I'm sure at your school, all about internal methods like supplementation that you can take into the body. This is very good and works with the mind. There's also external remedies, like we're going to talk about light pads and other things that work outside the body, physical therapy. But if the control center of the brain is not working right, these other three don't work at all. And that's really where the light and sound and what we call vibrational healing all comes into play. Everything in the universe is vibrating. It's either vibrating in harmony or in disharmony. We want to bring about coherency, the harmony of health, harmony, and vitality. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about light and sound and vibration. Now, it's important to understand as we continue this conversation that circumstances don't determine your stress levels. Thoughts, beliefs, and actions do. So as you think about your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions, are they causing you to become more stressed or less stressed? Let's hope, especially after today, that you decide to be less stressed, that you decide to use the tools that are available to you to de-stress your body, to focus your incredible, powerful mind, and create results in your life so you can create results in your clients' lives. Let's talk just for a moment about brainwaves and why that's important. First of all, why people can't do this on their own is most people out there are operating in a high degree of beta. This is your reactionary mind. And if you look over here, beta is your normal state of alertness. It's where stress and anxiety reign supreme. At this level of mind, you really can't change. Now, most people have heard the statement, it takes 21 days to make a change. That's not necessarily true. In fact, Stanford and Harvard both did that study, proved it took 21 days, but only if you use relaxation and visualization techniques. That's something they never told you. They found out it took 18 months to create a change in your personal life if you didn't use relaxation and visualization techniques. So the secret here is to use light and sound to relax and then visualize and realize your health goals. Now, alpha is where we want you to go. Alpha is a powerful state of mind. It's between 8 and 12 hertz frequency. It's a state of light relaxation, a state of super learning and positive thinking. Most people slip in and out of alpha all the time. When you think about things you really love and enjoy doing, where it seems like time itself is suspended, that either time speeds up or it seems like time's expanded, those are alpha states. Because once you get into this state of alpha, time becomes a little bit more malleable. That's why Einstein said, if you're sitting on a hot stove for a minute, it can seem like an hour. If you're sitting with a beautiful woman for an hour, it seems like a minute. So let's start living our life as if we can expand and compress time to create the type of health and well-being that we want. To do that, we must enter into theta. And that's what we're going to talk about, and how light and sound together is the only technology, and you heard me right, the only technology proven to take you to theta. Now, I know you all get the internet, so you hear all the time about theta programming that's just auditory. In our labs at BrainTap Technologies, we've never seen an auditory message get a significant number of people into theta. You can get them into alpha, but theta is that brainwave state between 4 and 7. It's a deep relaxing state, a deep meditation state. It increases memory and focus, but it's so fleeting that people either fall asleep, go into delta, which we're going to talk about in a moment, or they wake up and they go through alpha and beta again. It's so hard to stay in theta. Now, people do, and without the help of light and sound, there are plenty of people who meditate that get to theta, but it takes years of practice and focused attention. So what we're going to talk about is how the science of light and sound has streamlined this process and created a process which we coined meditation done with you. You don't have to do it yourself anymore. Light and sound will train the brain to go into these powerful states and increase the probability of your results. Now, delta is the other than conscious mind, and you might have heard studies about sleep learning. Well, the misnomer about sleep learning is sleep learning only happens in these two states of alpha and theta. So every night when you go to sleep, you start out at beta, you go to sleep, you go down into delta, hopefully for a period of time. You bounce back up into theta, and then light alpha, then back down, and you do that 3 times. During those 3 times, the super learning happens when you're in that state of alpha and theta, not in delta. There's no programming that happens there. So it's not really sleep learning. It's the cycles between the deep sleep and between being awake that allow you to super learn. And that's what light and sound does. It puts you into those brainwave states. Now, what is brainwave entrainment? First of all, as I go through all the different sciences that get your brain to entrain, what we're talking about here, and this is just an example of one of the BrainTap sessions, is we would start out and we would take you down into deep relaxation of alpha and theta, and we would then exercise your brain in between those times and then take some time to bring you out. So this is a diagram of a 30-minute session. Now, every one of our 700 sessions are different because the brain needs something new and different all the time. Listening to the same CD or the same cassette or the same download, the brain habituates. It doesn't entrain to that. It actually learns how to avoid it. So that's why we have a series. So when we entrain the brain, every session is a little bit different, so that as they go through, whether it be for 10 weeks or 52 weeks, whatever the length of the program is, each time their brain is being trained to move through a different brainwave frequency, starting off at beta. Now, to give you an example, when people start with our program, it takes 7 minutes to take them from beta consciousness into deep theta on the threshold of sleep, the other than conscious. And then they're going to exercise between theta and alpha until 2 minutes left of that session. So each session is a little bit different. Each one has a little bit different program, but by the time they get through with their series, let's say the series lasts 10 sessions, that series is going to take them to theta in less than 2 minutes because the brain's been trained to do that. Your brain is an incredible tool. It's a pattern recognizing organ. So we're going to use light and sound and a science called frequency following response within a moment. I'm going to introduce you to that concept. This frequency following response the brain latches onto and is far more intelligent than you've been led to believe. Your brain is able to learn without your conscious awareness. the same way you learned as a child the language that you speak currently. And that's why it's so hard to learn a new language, because those brain circuits that learn languages, once you learn the language in your community or your tribe, those circuits go dormant because the brain is always trying to conserve energy. It takes a lot of energy for the brain. It uses 25 to 30% of all the resources of the body, and it only weighs about 5 pounds. Now, here's something I found in Scientific America. It's the mystery of the human. And this talks about the human brain. One thing happens while you're sleeping. There is a key to lasting health. They realized in early 2015 that our brain literally had lymphatic vessels. Now, it always had them, but medical science finally acknowledged that it had it. Now, what's the lymphatic vessels? For those that haven't been through that part of your training yet, the lymphatic system runs parallel to the bloodstream and is the garbage man of the system. I'm going to keep it very simple here. And without the lymphatic system, the system would back up with toxins. So remember when I said thoughts, traumas are toxins? If the brain isn't cleared of its toxins, then healing can't happen in brain trauma. Then we can get things like Alzheimer's, we can get foggy brain, we can, all the things that we don't want, memory, focus, and concentration all diminish. So while you're sleeping, incredible things happen. During the deepest levels of sleep, you have an internal plumbing system that rids the brain of toxins. But you must reach level 4 sleep. It's the only time this cleanup ritual occurs. That's where light and sound truly shines. When people use our BrainTap system, they find that they sleep better, with 1 out of 6 of your fellow students having a problem sleeping. And 1 out of 6 of every client you see at this day and age has a problem with sleeping. You will now have a solution to help them to sleep through the night. In fact, our sleep studies that we've done, and we have currently 2 of them going right now, so hopefully I'll be able to share this with you as you become more and more involved with this science of light and sound, is we're finding that over 90% of the people that utilize this technology return to a natural, normal sleeping cycle. Now, what do we mean by that? When you're wearing the BrainTap system, we're going to channel precise frequencies of light and sound to the brain, and I'm going to talk about those in just a moment. They are picked up by the optic nerve. Your eyelids are closed. This pulsating light works in harmony with the frequencies, the audio frequencies, and balances the hemispheres of the brain. So the brain and body, working with light and sound, are balancing these hemispheres. Your body synchronizes with these patterns and creates what's known as the relaxation response. All you need to do is relax. Let go and let it happen. There's a saying, let it happen. The word let means in no way help or hinder the process. So let go, let it happen, and experience it for yourself. The only people that can't use the visor part of this light and sound process are people with epilepsy. We've never had an epileptic seizure, thank God, but let's not start today. So we can flip the visor up and just use the ear lights and the audio signal to accomplish the goal. They're going to lose out on about 15% to 20% of the effects the lights have. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about that science here as we go along. Now, what is the neurosensory algorithm? Well, first of all, I'm going to break all these down, but we have strategic mind messaging that goes on during each of the sessions. We have binaural beats. We have isochronic tones. We have light therapy, and we have auricular therapy. When they're wearing, as you saw in that last picture, we had ear lights. With those ear lights, what's happening is we're hitting those auricular points. The light is moving down the meridians and freeing up the energy flow in the body through light. Now, when all of that's happening all at once, we create what is called the relaxation response. This is for pleasure and achievement. So as we break down each of these and you learn a little bit more about the science of each of them, we could spend literally a day going over each one of them, maybe even a week, depending upon the science. So I'm going to go over and give you like a 50,000-foot view so you understand the science that goes into the BrainTap technology. First of all, we have epigenetics with our strategic mind messaging. Now, most of you probably know who Bruce Lipton is. If you don't, I want you to run out, get the biology of belief, because Dr. Bruce is one of the incredible authors of something and made us all aware of epigenetics. That means that words move beyond genetics. So EPA means above genetics. So it controls the genetic function, the gene expression of the body. So when you're thinking, when you're in an unresourceful state or a lower frequency state, these are states that are stressful, fearful, frustrating, anxious, and fearful. There's no access to resources. This is a reactionary state of mind. Obviously, this isn't where we want you to go with light and sound. So we're going to move you from these unresourceful states into these resourceful states, these higher frequency states. This happens because you're calm, focused, and happy. You have full access to resources, and you make good decision making. All of this happens because each and every one of our sessions guides you through something called an NLP practitioner training course, but you get to experience it. So I don't have time to go through it all because we could literally spend 54 days just going over neurolinguistic programming training. But first of all, we have to disassociate the negatives from the mind because those habituated patterns are firing and wiring together every day, whether that's within you or within your client. So we need to unplug that programming and put new programming in its place so that the new program wires and fires in the same way. And it all happens spontaneously. It happens naturally because the brain wants to feel good. These high energy states make us feel good, and because our brain is the activator of the most powerful pharmacy on earth, the brain can literally release up to 30,000 different neurochemicals with a simple thought. So think, you can shut down those pleasurable sensations and feelings by being in an unresourceful state, or you can turn on those highly valuable, resourceful states by being calm, focused, and happy. And that's what I want for you, and that's what we've done. Light and sound puts you into those states, especially when you use the right words, the terminology that triggers this powerful process called epigenetics. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about binaural beats. And you can see here in this demographic here that we're putting in 295 hertz in one ear and 305 hertz in the other. Now, this isn't exactly how it works, but it's a good diagram. The brain hears 10 hertz. Now, what we've done is we have an algorithm that takes the brain from wherever you're starting at, whether it be 18 cycles per second, so that means there would be an 18 hertz frequency difference between those signals, one coming in the right ear, one coming in the left. Now, as it ladders, if you will, like moving down a ladder, we're going to move them down the ladder in an algorithm, which means at a certain pace and cadence that we've verified with neurological techniques using neurofeedback, we can measure the brain in real time to ensure we know without a doubt, because we've done research with over 1,000 people in our one study. This was back in the 80s. And we found out it took up to 3 sessions for everyone's brain in the study. So 1,000 people, after 3 sessions, their brain followed the algorithm every time through the pattern. So that meant without their conscious awareness, their brain was moving from high beta to alpha to theta, then back up to alpha, then back down to theta. Whatever the algorithm was that we put in that session to teach them. And to give you an idea, if somebody's autistic, they're missing alpha. So that training is all about alpha. Most adults in the normal population are low on theta. So what we've done is almost all of our trainings are developing theta brainwaves. So each one is a little bit different, but we focused on the area that we know in general needs to be done. For instance, if you can't sleep, there's a pretty good chance that you're operating in high beta, where fear, frustration, and anxiety reside, and you have little or no alpha and theta. So we need to train your brain to have more of those brainwave states so you can simply move from beta down into delta and enter into deep sleep and then get the sleep that you want. And believe it or not, your brain can do all of this without your conscious awareness. Now the next step is we call it frequency following response. So every one of these algorithms has a response feature. We as a people respond to sound. We respond to light sources. We respond to nature. We respond to our environment. We respond to people. Now, the planet itself has a frequency. When you're out there on the mountaintop, you're relaxed and comfortable because the mountaintop is resonating at a frequency of about 7.8 hertz. That's called the Schumann frequency. That's the frequency of the planet. When you go near the ocean, it's about 10 cycles per second. That's alpha. That's why you feel good when you're sitting there and hearing the ocean waves. when you're hearing a rain. All of these things in nature take us out of high beta and put us into alpha or theta. These are all things that happen naturally to our body because of something called the frequency following response. So we're going to use that science to guide the person with light and sound into these other than conscious states where their body can heal. Remember, they can rest, relax, digest, get their parasympathetic system operating at the highest level of efficiency. Now, because not everybody hears perfectly with their right and left ear, that means binaural beats aren't going to work perfectly. We use something, we overlay it with something called isochronic tones. And the reason we have the drummer there, if you've ever been to a drum circle, it's really how isochronic tones work. The earth itself is an isochronic tone generator. It has a frequency. If you're in the middle of a city, that's probably about 18 to 22 cycles per second. That's why there's fear, frustration, and anxiety there, because it's high beta. So these isochronic tones generate and emit a sound at regular intervals. This intense sound goes from 0 to 100 and back again, and is evenly spaced. Now, we've already encoded into all of the BrainTap sessions, but there's actually a strong cortical response in the brain. This means without you consciously knowing it, the brain actually responds. If while watching this video, I was to put an isochronic tone generator in the middle of the classroom, and it was generating an alpha frequency, everyone would simply start to feel good. If you've ever been near a waterfall is an isochronic tone generator. It's generating high alpha waves. So when you're sitting next to it, you start to feel good. So science has found a way that nature has already provided us, but science has found us a way that we can use frequencies to generate that. Now, we also use light. Remember, light is power. So as this light comes in, light is the most underutilized nutrient. In fact, they say light is nature's Prozac. So what light does, it enters into the body and activates ATP. ATP is your body's currency. It's what creates energy to function, energy to rejuvenate, energy to repair. So we're going to use your eyes, because your eyes aren't just attached to your brain. Your eyes are literally your brain. So through closed eyelids, the brain can be fed light. And I'm going to tell you all about the benefits of light in just a moment. We're going to use the ear channel. Remember the second slide we had where we showed the cell phone and the experience it has. But we're going to put healing frequencies called Neuro-chemical frequencies. These frequencies, we're going to use the 293 hertz frequency for the brain healing and for the nervous system healing. 70% of the nervous system is in the brain. So if we're going to heal the nervous system, we can do it first through the central organizing authority, the human brain. Then we're going to let it spread down through the body. Now, light therapy in the brain, this triggers nitric oxide. It turns on ATP production. So think about it. Your brain has its own nitric oxide generator. It just needs light to trigger it. Vasodilation happens. This increases blood flow and circulation to the area. So we're feeding the brain light. Remember, once we get the body back sleeping, we can detox the brain. When the brain is detoxed now, we can heal the brain. Through vasodilation, we can bring oxygen, nutrients, and blood flow to the brain, which create healing. This creates what's called angiogenesis, the process by which new blood vessels form from pre-existing vessels. So this means we're going to create new highways of health and nutrition to the brain by bringing light into the brain. The more light we can give to the brain, the better. The problem is we have to get the light in through the suture points or through the eyes and through the meridian points of the ears, as Dr. Nogier has found. Now, the benefits of light therapy goes like this. Light therapy does not address the pain. It addresses the causal factors that created it. It helps clear out the problem instead of just chemically masking it, as most medications do. So when you look at the BrainTap equipment and you see the lights in the ears, we have the different colored lights to activate the nervous system to get the healing to happen. Now, some of you might actually feel a little warmth in your ears when you're doing your demonstration session on the BrainTap equipment. That's because those meridian points are blocked. Just like in ancient times, they would use needles, and they might still use them today, and you might be learning that, to open up these meridian points. We're going to use light to do that. We're going to bathe the ear in light with a frequency of 293 hertz frequency. Those meridian points are going to allow that energy to move through the body, healing the body on many different levels. Now, pain often results from a lack of circulation into the area due to low oxygen supply to the nerves. Think about it. If you were to take a rubber band and wrap it around the end of your fingertip would start to hurt because you cut off blood flow, circulation, and oxygen to that area of the body. Once you take the rubber band off and blood flows freely back to that area, you now have more health and vitality and you don't feel the pain. Light therapy increases circulation by boosting nitric oxide, creating rapid chemical changes and vasodilation, along with over 23 different physical benefits. Think about what the body can do if exposed to the right light at the right frequency. That's what we're talking about here, is how to use the new science to bring about the natural innate intelligence of the body, to put the body back online through the nervous system. Now, what happens during an actual light and sound session? First of all, there's an 11% increase in norepinephrine levels. There's a 21% increase in serotonin levels. There's 25% increase in beta endorphin levels. Now, this is very similar to someone who got a great massage or that got a great night's sleep. So what we're doing is we're imitating a cycle of sleep, but instead of doing it in 6 or 8 hours, we're going to do it in 20 minutes. We're going to accelerate the healing potential of the body by activating it through light and sound technology. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a research project. We have several research projects we've done with something like, we've done it with the U.S. military. We've helped them to find out how it works with PTSD, with grieving processes, with sleeping disorders. We've done studies with weight loss, but this is a study we did in our spa in New Bern. Between June and July 2015, we took 50 of our clients and we measured improvements and each person made after a single 20-minute session on the BrainTap. And the incredible thing we found out was that the stress index of those individuals improved 36%, which meant they were 36% better able to handle and manage stress. Their autonomic nervous system improved 31%. Their vital force, their energy that makes up their capacity to get work done, their energy resources, went up 33%. Their neurohormonal regulation improved by 15% overall. Their psycho-emotional state, their ability to handle and manage crisis, went up 17%. Their heart rate variability, which we call the biorhythm coherence, went up 33%. I'm going to break this down into each and every one of these to show you an example of one of those people in the study. So first of all, we can look here. This is what the Alfa Scan actually puts out. We call it the vital scan here. So when you look at it, we have the pre and the post here. So you can see the time difference from 3:34 to 4:19. That's the time difference it took for them to do a light and sound session using the BrainTap technology. Now we broke this up so you can see it a little bit better, but this is a nice report that the vital scan does show you. Now, first of all, we have the biorhythm, right? The heart rate variability. Beforehand, this person was operating at 33% efficiency. Not very good. Afterwards, they were functioning at 96%. Their nervous system went back online. The incredible thing here that we've realized in science is there's 4 direct nervous channels or nerve endings that go directly from the heart to the brain. That's why heart rate variability has become so important and so much a part of health. It's the gold standard of health today. So if we can get somebody's heart rate, their heart coherency to go back in balance, their body's going to function better. The heart does control the brain, and the brain works with the heart. So let's get the heart and the brain working together. This is what happens when you start to use these deep states of consciousness and using light and sound technology. Next, this is their psycho-emotional state when they're looking at it. They were at 40% when they started the test, and they went to 88% after the test. This means that their brain has more energy to focus, concentrate, and remember and recall information. And we did this by bringing light into the brain and helping the brain detox. This is spectrum analysis. They now know that through ECG instead of EEG. Now, this has all been backed up with equipment called the Neuro-Infinity, which is our brainwave program, which we can hook up through leads, and we have pathways into the brain by by reading EEG, but this is an easy way to do it. So like most people here, you'll see that they started out at 41% delta. Most people are operating in these high degrees of delta. So they're 41% delta, they only had 8% beta. This person wants to go to sleep because their brain is inflamed. They want to do something, they want to make a change. Now after the session, this is almost a perfect brainwave. They have 42% beta, 26% alpha. I mean, this is about as perfect as you can get. And they only have 14% delta. This was all after just a 20-minute session. Now, one of the things that this software does, it measures their nervous system or their biological age against 10,000 Russians. Now, this person started out at 62 years old and was a biological age of 57, so that's pretty good. I mean, they're operating pretty healthy, but after a 20-minute session, balancing their brain and getting their nervous system back online, instead of operating as a 62-year-old, they're now operating as a 34-year-old. And this all happened with a 20-minute session. Now, if you're wondering how long does this last, with anything to do with the nervous system, it lasts about 72 hours. So after 72 hours, they're going to go back to whatever their baseline is. What we have found in our research is if someone does a BrainTap session at least twice a week over the course of 30 days, that this improvement will now become their norm, which means after 30 days, this individual would come in like a 34-year-old because their nervous system would have been tuned up. It's something that has to be done continuously, though, like meditation or relaxation techniques. Stress happens to us every day, so we have to have a way to manage that stress. And the light and sound technology of the BrainTap is one of those ways. Now, when you look at this, they can actually measure metabolic function. This person came in with 120 metabolic resources. They were bringing in 52, burning 68. This means that they were a fat-burning machine. So this person wasn't overweight. But look, think about it. If they were overweight, look what happened after a 20-minute session. They boosted their metabolic energy resources up to 363. They brought their metabolic system back online. They're bringing in 149. They're burning 214. This is an incredible breakthrough. Now, light and sound technology works to eliminate unwanted habits, behaviors, and thought patterns. It helps create positive ingrained habits. It creates resource states. It imprints goals in the other than conscious part of your mind. It provides positive mental rehearsal. Now, brain-based wellness, I think every health practitioner needs this. Remember, there's thoughts, traumas, and toxins. So this is going to help reverse the fight or flight effect that happens every day. It's going to help return the body back to homeostasis. It's going to enhance neurochemistry. It's going to balance the hemispheres of the brain. It's going to improve sleep, vitality, and energy. It's going to boost the immune system. A key component in disease prevention, anti-aging, and wellness. The best thing you can do for your body is get rid of excess adrenaline and cortisol from the system. This is what happens when you do a BrainTap session. Now, we have over 700 different visualizations. And when you use this in your practice, you can work with kids and adults. Now, this is just a fine line here. We have some for self-reliance for kids, sportsmanship, values, academic performance, sports performance. For those who've watched the Olympics, we had several Olympians out there. Kate Grace was one of our 800-meter runners. She was a BrainTap user because they realized that the brain is an important part, your mindset, the way you think. For adults, we can use stress relief, we can get blissful sleep, we can work with weight loss. When we were featured in 2006 in People magazine, it was because when people used technology of light and sound, they were able to take the weight off and keep it off. In fact, the article was written about Rob Powell, how he took off half his body's weight and kept it off for 5 years. And by the way, he's still a friend of mine on Facebook, and he's still Justice Then Today. So we work with fitness and sports as well as working on other areas. Now, I wish I was there so I could put you on the equipment. This is a demonstration of one of our trade show booths. But I know that at the college there, they have a couple of units. They're going to let you try it out. Try it for yourself. See how you respond. And remember, to learn more about this technology, you can go get a free book, my gift to you, at www.neuro-chemical.com. yourflourishingbrain.com/free. And when you fill in the information there, you'll get a link back where you can download those 2 books as PDFs, my gift to you, so that you can continue to research. The one book, the Your Flourishing Brain book, actually has the research where we went out and we help healthcare practitioners integrate this into their practice. So we give you best practices, how it's used and applied in practice so you can learn that. We go into greater detail about the science. The other book is all about the science. So I look forward to hearing from each of you and learning how we can benefit you and how we can work together to change the world one client at a time. Again, this is Dr. Patrick Porter. I appreciate you listening, and I hope that I have helped you along the way in your career as a healthcare professional, and I know you're going to change the world one client at a time. Thank you.